and welcome to our 37th Global Public Seminar in Comparative International Education. My name is Maria Chakseliani. I'm Professor of Comparative International Education here at Oxford. This is our first hybrid webinar. We have done quite a few entirely online in the past, and now we are trying a new hybrid format. We are trying to record this and hopefully post it online. This seminar is basically delivered by our very prominent speaker today, who I will introduce to you in a moment. You will have opportunity to ask any questions in the chat of the Teams chat. We have quite a few participants in the Teams chat, more participants on Teams than in the room. So please feel free to share your thoughts, to share your questions there. And after the talk is over, I will pose those questions and comments to the speaker. So today our speaker is Professor Maria Teresa Tatto, whose research in comparative and international education largely focuses on teacher education, although today's talk is on global citizenship education. Teresa is professor at Arizona State University and an honorary fellow here at the Department of Education. His research is very much concerned with policy, practice, and systems that can result in more equitable and widely accessible educational opportunities for disadvantaged populations in different parts of the world. She obtained her master's and doctoral degrees from Harvard University Graduate School of Education, and her undergraduate education was in Mexico, National Autonomous University of Mexico. She's a former president of the Comparative International Education Society and a fellow of the American Educational Research Association. So the floor is yours, Teresa. We look forward to hearing.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to see whether I can change the slide. I can. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very honored, and I'm very thankful to Professor Maria Chakseliani for inviting me and inviting us to present our work. Our work is teamwork. I'm still a professor, visiting professor at the University of Bath. And with my colleagues Zhijun Chen and Sandoval-Hernandez, we undertook this analysis. We were curious about how the curriculum in Europe regarding citizenship, global citizenship education influences the beliefs of European youth, particularly 15-year-olds, secondary students finishing, secondary school. So how do they think about global citizenship behavior? So our work draws on the CIE International Comparative Civic Study 2022. The data is from 20 countries, European countries. And in our analysis, we examine how opportunities to learn, or this is the curriculum, shape young people's beliefs about global citizenship. We also focus on the role of gender and socioeconomic status, because we believe that those actually have a role in the degree of access that students have on the curriculum on global citizenship education. So we explore how opportunities to learn global citizenship education influence students' beliefs. These are our research questions, as you can see, and we're going to go through them later in the presentation. Basically, how national context and engagement with global issues shape student beliefs about citizenship behavior, and how is global citizenship education integrated into A-grade curricula, what gender differences exist in citizenship beliefs, and how does socioeconomic status influence citizenship beliefs. So our assumptions are that global citizenship education has the potential to reshape identities and responsibilities by equipping learners with knowledge, skills, and values and attitudes to address global issues and challenges having to do with justice, sustainability, and peace. These are kind of key goals for the EU, the European Union. Also, our assumptions is that opportunities to learn depend on quality of instruction, sufficient learning time, adequate materials, supportive school environments. And we also assume that opportunities to learn is shaped by socioeconomic status and gender. We define socioeconomic status as parental income, education, and occupation. And gender is defined as the social roles and expectations that shape learning experiences for boys and girls, mostly, and other genders. So just a little bit about the foundation of citizenship and civic education. Citizenship is a dynamic concept. It changes according to political, ethical, cultural, and lived experiences. It's shaped by participation, responsibility, and identity in society. And we also want to mention that the digital age expands civic engagement, while inequities limit participation. Post-World War II, the European Union, UNESCO, and several nation states wanted to promote global peace, security, and human rights. Nation states tended to emphasize sovereignty and shared identity within the state, the nation state, whereas UNESCO and others were pushing towards globalization. So we do see a natural tension between national interests and global obligations. And this has made it a little bit difficult to implement global citizenship education. Also, at that time, states reviewed or developed new constitutions to embed democracy, justice, equity, and human rights. And many constitutions mandate citizenship education to foster understandings of rights, responsibilities, and civic participation. Democracy and education, influenced by Dewey, in the US. He really alleged the important connection between democracy and education, saying that education fosters democratic habits, social efficiency, and personal social growth. And the core values here are critical thinking, open-mindedness, hello, welcome, and social responsibility. Why the European Union? As I said a little bit before, the European Union really took the lead in emphasizing global values. But what we see interestingly is that after 1989 and post 9/11, the growth of global citizenship education in Europe expanded significantly, reflecting global and regional priorities, shifts. Curricular integration, they worked very hard on that to embed across history, civics, and social studies curriculum to promote shared democratic values. EU priorities, a strong emphasis on democratic engagement, participation, and active citizenship. Of course, there are current challenges, which we are all experiencing, I believe, rising extremism, widespread disinformation, and political fragmentation. And this all made very complex the implementation of global citizenship education curriculum. This is our conceptual model. Just it's very simple, but Zhijun is going to talk to you about how complex the analysis was. But this is, just to give you an idea, we take into account the wider community. This comes from the IEA report, the study. The wider community represented by democratic history, education structure, then that moves into school characteristics, which also includes socioeconomic status of the school and the implemented curriculum, which then moves to student learning, and includes also socioeconomic background and gender. And then that all has a consequence on the beliefs that people have about citizenship behavior. Now I'm going to invite my colleague, Chen, to introduce the methods for the study. And are you ready, Zhijun?
Yes. Thank you, Teresa.
Sure.
I just realized this. I don't know how to change the slides. So do you mind to help me?
I will change it for you. I'll change it for you.
Great. Thanks. So as Teresa has mentioned, our study uses the data from ICCS 2022 cycle, and we are focusing on the grade A students across 20 European countries. And in total, the sample includes over 66,000 students from nearly 3,000 schools. And this is all for our main goal to examine how the opportunity to learn and how the socioeconomic status and the gender could be associated with the students' beliefs about global citizenship, and how different key variables are interacted with each other. And to do this, we apply the multi-level modeling to account. We also applied for the multi-level modeling to account for the nested structure of students within schools. So thank you. Now we are moving to our key variables. First is our outcome variables that measures the student beliefs about the globally oriented citizenship behaviors, such as intercultural cooperation, environmental protection, and social responsibility. And we also have a few key independent variables, including the socioeconomic status, the gender, and the opportunity to learn. And in particular, the opportunity to learn is to capture the student reported exposure to civic and global topics at school. And for the socioeconomic status, we have done the centering for socioeconomic status for both the individual level and for the school level. And also before we are going to the modeling, to mention that all key variables are based on the international skills IRT-based measures, which would allow us for further meaningful comparisons across countries. Now we are moving to the next slide. Thank you. Because the students are nested within schools and educational systems, we used the multi-level models to separate the individual level impacts from contextual impacts. We began with a baseline model that includes gender, individual socioeconomic status, school level socioeconomic status, and opportunity to learn. We then extend this model by introducing the model, we call them from model B to model E, by introducing each interaction terms. So just to bring an example, one model might examine whether the impact of students' socioeconomic backgrounds depends on the school level of socioeconomic backgrounds, asking whether the schools amplify or reduce the family background advantages. Or another model examines whether the opportunity to learn work differently for students from different socioeconomic backgrounds, testing whether learning opportunities reproduce inequality or instead function as an equalizer. So sorry that hasn't been covered in these slides, and because the models are too complex, so I just bring a few examples for the interactions.
Yeah, we decided
So
not
now
to explain models B and E, right? We decided not to explain models B and E, and it gets very complicated, and we only have an hour. But we can share our paper with anybody who is interested, and this is also going to be published on Oxford University Press. So very soon, we hope. Okay, so now we go on to results. Andres, do you want to present the results? Andres. Is Andres here?
I think so.
He says he was invited to the meeting, but I think moving on, I could present the results.
Yes, he's here, and let me see if he has Yes, he has microphone. And
okay, Andres. There he is.
He said he cannot use his camera or mic. I think he had the same issue as me, so.
He has access to camera and mic.
Maybe ask him to try again.
Okay.
Maybe we can move forward to the results and then he will jump in. Okay, so it's important that Andres be here because he is coordinating the next international comparative civic study. So this is gonna come out in 2027. And so, but anyways, so for the results, we basically found that countries share broad global citizenship education goals. but still, as we were explaining at the beginning, these different cultural values, priorities, and educational traditions. So these differences influence how opportunities to learn, that is the curriculum, impacts students' beliefs across Europe. So here are some examples of national variation. If you can see, for example, Denmark has a very strong environmental focus. So the curriculum includes that, as well as the Netherlands and Sweden. Digital citizenship, Estonia is right there, very high on digital citizenship. Human rights, Republican values, France is an example. National identity and EU citizenship, Latvia, Poland, and Lithuania, and intercultural dialogue, Serbia, and in sustainability and global responsibility, Slovenia and Norway. So you can actually look into their websites and see what their curriculum look like, which is what we did for this article, this chapter. And so it's all in our paper. There is curriculum integration across countries. So most countries embed global citizenship education through history, social studies, geography, and civic education, though depth and consistency vary widely. Our overall finding regarding question 2, which had to do with the curriculum opportunity to learn, effects across countries, the overall finding is that opportunities to learn significantly predict students' global citizenship beliefs across all countries studied, but there are stronger effects in other countries. For example, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, and these stronger effects indicates a strong policy commitment. You can see this in the policy in the country's comprehensive curricula and effective pedagogy. There are weaker effects in Spain, Slovak Republic, Germany, the German region, and suggest less consistent integration or gaps in curriculum depth implementation. Basically what we see is lack of coherence across curriculum. An example of Italy, Italy introduced major reforms in civic education, and in the curriculum they include a study of the constitution, sustainability, digital citizenship, environmental protection, heritage, and health education. They have a minimum of 30 hours per year in the curriculum to deal with global citizenship education, which is huge. Project-based learning is important and is supported by international programs such as Erasmus. And the result is they have high civic knowledge and a strong global citizenship outcomes. So it depends how much the country really wants to emphasize in the policy and in the curriculum, this area. Now, going to question 3, the gender differences. We saw in an overall patterns where the girls consistently report stronger global citizenship beliefs than boys across all countries. The gender differences are positive and significant, but they vary also across national contexts. So the largest gender gaps are in Sweden, Poland, Spain, where the educational or cultural context may resonate more strongly with girls who engage more deeply with global citizenship themes. This also suggests influences such as socialization patterns, teaching strategies, cultural norms, engagement opportunities in schools. It also should tell us that maybe women should be presidents of all the countries in the world. Smaller gender gaps were found in Malta, France, German regions, and suggest more gender-neutral practices and more equal participation across genders. And socioeconomic effects on global citizenship beliefs. This is question 4. The overall pattern is that socioeconomic status consistently predicts stronger global citizenship beliefs across nearly all countries. In other words, better off students have more access to the curriculum than less well-off students. Countries with stronger SES effects are Lithuania, France, the German regions, Cyprus, the Slovak Republic. Higher socioeconomic status is linked to greater access to resources, enrichment, and global learning opportunities, differences in extracurricular exposure, and cultural capital. Now, countries with weaker SES effects, Spain, Norway, Germany, the global citizenship education may be more inclusive, less dependent on socioeconomic status. Strong national policies may reduce disparities, and more equitable educational systems have a stronger universal access to global citizenship education. So this is part of our conclusions. I'm not sure whether Andres is already there. Andres? Okay, so we find a need for critical examination of European global citizenship education. For example, paying attention to cultural bias and Eurocentrism. There are continuous complaints about the curricular Eurocentrism in European countries, and this increases more and more as more European countries receive more immigrant populations. Inclusivity and representation. A global curriculum must include diverse cultural perspectives and validate multiple knowledge systems, not just add content. So it's a reflection that maybe global citizenship education in the EU is not as global as people would like it to be. There are pedagogical limitations. Many global citizenship pedagogies rely on Western teacher traditions that may not fit all cultural contexts. Reflective critical practices are needed. And regarding policy implementation challenges, it seems like the curriculum proposed has been seen as one size fits all, but these kind of models risk ignoring local realities. And so policies must support flexible, context-sensitive approaches that promote equity. So, Andres?
What will make Andres as a presenter? Let's do
that
next.
Hi.
Andres?
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
Great.
Okay,
Finally.
Andres. So tell us why global comparative education matters now. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very sorry. I was there from the beginning, but I just my camera and microphone were not working, and now it seems that my camera is a bit distorted. But anyway,
That's okay. You look handsome, anyways.
thank you, Teresa. Well, let me go ahead, but please, Teresa, Zhijun, chip in. We believe that global citizenship education is important now more than ever because of the context in which we are living. Everywhere, it was at some point said. Well, let me give you a bit of context. In the International Civic and Citizenship Education Study, the last round, there was a model for Latin America. And in that model, we have specific questions that were deemed to be important, relevant for Latin American context. And that has to do a lot with the rising of extremism, human rights violations, the displacement, the misinformation, the freedom of speech. Now, for 2027, which is the next round, we are including those questions everywhere in all European countries, because now it's not only in certain countries. We believe that now the rising of extremism and the issues with human rights are all over the world, or in most countries, if not in many countries more than ever. So we think that now is very important that we have this information. If we can have this information now, that means that we can act later. Let's remember that this information is collected for children who are in 8th grade. They're 14 years old, more or less. So the children who took ICCS in 2022, they are voting now. And that tells you something, because that you can know in advance what are going to be the issues, or what are the issues at the time with these young populations. We believe, therefore, that is more now than ever, is important to gather information, robust information, comparable information, so we are able to learn one from another in order to build understanding of democracy, global independence, and civic responsibility. Again, back to the insights from ICCS 2022, we have seen there is a strong link between civic knowledge and global citizenship education. So the integration is very close. The more the students know about civic knowledge in general, the better their attitudes towards global citizenship education as well. So it's important that we have that. On top of that, other insights from ICCS 2022 tell us that open classroom for discussions, for example, this is a variable that we collect information about. It's a scale that we have in the data set. That means that when students feel that they can speak freely in their classroom, when the teachers invite students, all students to participate, when students feel they are confident in participating, even when their opinion is not very popular, we have a scale to measure that, and we call it open classroom for discussion. We can see that this kind of environments in the schools, the participation in classrooms, all of those boost engagement. And of course, the effectiveness of these measures vary from country to country, from culture to culture, and also in relation with the resource levels, how well equipped schools are, how well trained teachers are. But in general, we see patterns that these kind of variables can make a difference. Now, we also identify some challenges. There is uneven institutional commitment, and this is within countries and across countries. Civic and citizenship education, global citizenship education are not always considered the part of the basic skills that students should learn. If there is a clear consensus in terms of reading, mathematics, science, civic education is coming up, but is not in all contexts considered as important as in others. No? There is a new resolution from the European Commission, for example, that say that they have a statement, what are the basic skills? In that resolution, they include, of course, reading, mathematics, science, and civic education. But this is not the same everywhere. This is something relatively new, and many countries still don't buy into it. They consider that there are the things much more important than that. So that's a challenge that is, I believe, is changing due to the, again, coming back to the global context in which we are living, and these backsliding democracies around the world, that this is changing, but it's still in the making. No? There's also inconsistencies in teacher preparation. Some teachers are better prepared than others, and that has to do with the importance that each of the countries, each of the contexts give to this kind of educational outcomes. In terms of policy recommendations and educator strategies, we wanted to do some more hands-on implications. And the policy recommendations, we see that some of the things that can work based on our results are the design of inclusive curricula that reflect diverse histories and cultures. We need to strengthen the teacher training in cross-cultural pedagogy and bias awareness. And this is, we have seen that this is across all the countries that we have analyzed. And we have to ensure equitable resource distribution so all schools can deliver high quality global citizenship education. And that is in terms of resources, but also in terms of opportunities to learn in general. There are many activities, there are many participation dynamics that happen not equally across countries. And the other one that is very important is to engage families and communities to enhance the relevance and impact. So if families, if parents think that this is an important topic, then this is how the support is built for the school to be able to deliver. In terms of the strategies for educators, well, we need to tailor global citizenship education to national priorities and local inequalities. First step, and for this kind of, is an evaluation of the situation. Where are the red lights? Where are the gaps that we have to fill? And for that, studies like the one we just presented and the paper that we published, we believe they can help to provide this mapping of where we can do what is needed where. We need to provide strong opportunities to learn for all students. Everyone has to have the chance to learn, not only in terms of transmission of knowledge or delivery from the teachers, but also in terms of participation in different activities. Related to that is the use of differentiated instruction and accessible curricula. This is also important. Not all teaching strategies are the best for every outcome. Different outcomes may need different strategies, and also the cultural differences. No? Different contexts, different countries may benefit better from different teaching strategies for those outcomes. And then we need to build cross-country learning communities to share effective practices. And this is, we also believe, important. That can be done through a number of ways, but one is papers that are published in journals that are read by teachers, and also the non-academic publications that we can produce in order to make them accessible to teachers. That we think we could help to build these cross-country learning communities that are going to allow share these effective practices for teachers across different latitudes.
And Andres, also, I'm thinking that the country's participation in the development of the study, right? The questions that are included and all of that also invites cross-country learning communities in a way, invites teachers. I mean, the development of these studies is very inclusive already.
Yes. Well, I have to say, going a little bit off topic, but now as director of ICCS, I can tell you, we have for this round, we have 28 countries, and the instrument preparation, the instrument development, everyone participates. It's not that we do it here in BAT and we tell the countries what instruments to apply. The instruments are developed together with them. And in most cases, they involve teachers, they involve practitioners in providing feedback for the questions in the test, in providing feedback for the questions in the questionnaires. So that's important, and that, of course, helps to build these communities.
And our last slide.
Yeah, we have some examples of effective practices. In Finland, for example, we have the phenomenon-based project-based learning and global themes. It's an approach that they have in Finland that is very well known, and it has shown to have good results for learning these kind of skills. When it comes to global citizenship, we know that it has to do with knowledge, with the cognitive process with learning things, but we know that the skills are mostly acquired through participation and engagement in activities, and that's a good example. The Erasmus Plus in the EU, they have intercultural exchanges for students and teachers. There's also very well studied, and there's lots of evidence to show that, to different extent, of course, but that this is an effective practice to promote global citizenship education. In Canada, they have the digital global collaboration. Talking IT Global, this is the example. And in the United States, they have the service learning connected to global issues. This is another way of promoting this global citizenship that is used in the United States, but not only. If I may add, another one that we don't have here, we have the International Baccalaureate and the middle years program that is together with the IB. Those are also some ways in which these practices can be promoted. Some final reflections. Teresa, would you like to conclude? Or?
Sure. So the final reflections, through doing this study, we believe now that global citizenship education is essential for preparing active, informed global citizens. Must address specific systematic barriers and inequities and contextual differences to ensure meaningful access for all learners. Future progress requires longitudinal studies such as the ICCS and ongoing assessments to track change over time. So I think a difficulty sometimes with the curriculum is that there is not adequate assessments to actually, weigh how much students have learned and then to evaluate whether the opportunities to learn that they have, the curriculum is making a difference. So assessment, we believe is important. And this is the end with enough time for discussion, comments, questions. This is the citation. It's going to come out in the Oxford Handbook on Global Citizenship Education, edited by Bocio. And here are our emails if you want to get in touch with us. And below is the information in the ICCS 2022 study, which is the database we used. And also, if you click in ICCS, IANL studies, you can find the next study. And it will be great if many countries participated. To me, it's unbelievable that Latin America is not participating. But anyway, so that's the end. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Teresa, Zhijun, and Chris, for joining, all the three of you. I see there are some comments coming in. Rusudan, would you like to introduce yourself and share your questions to the speakers, please?
Maya, can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa, team. It was very interesting and insightful. So I'm an education specialist, but for the last decade, over 12 years, I used to work as a deputy chief of party of USA funded program, and we had like big, component within the project how to promote youth civic education via non-formal and informal education. I have two questions, if I may, to you. First of all, I would like to make a little bit of inquiry. How would you conceptualize what you note as a community context, whether it's a broad interpretation of it, just, social cultural part, or whether it's, it's a political context, like what kind of regime or democracy and governance in the country, for example. And another question would be, I know that you've been looking at mostly within formal education dimension in this study, mostly, looking and examining curriculum. So I would be interested if you have any intentions or plan to make or to do similar project and analysis for the informal and non-formal settings, because in my country, for example, in Georgia, students learn global education, citizenship, and civic education as well, mostly in non-formal and informal settings. For example, funded by the development partners, donors, etc. So that would be my question. Thank you very much.
And can I just say something, and then Andres will probably answer most of the questions. But so we're working with the ICCS 2022 study, and what they did to understand the political, cultural context of each country provides that perspective in writing. So if you go into that website and you try to find, the reports, they are very long, very exhaustive, and you can find in the index context, you can find political situation, you can find everything according to the countries, and so the countries are asked to provide this kind of contextual information as part of participating in the study. And then, of course, there is vast differences across countries. But so that's kind of the quality part of this, right? We're looking at the vast differences and all that. And then we use the statistics to try to find commonalities. But it is obvious that, there are vast differences, and the differences really help us in comparative studies to understand, how come certain countries do very well in their curriculum and the outcomes on global citizenship education, and what are other countries doing, and considering whether this is something that we need to learn more about. Andres?
Yeah, to complement that, yes, Teresa is right. There is lots of documentation about the study, but I can tell you briefly or an overview. ICCS has a test for students to measure the civic knowledge. They have a questionnaire for students in which information is compiled about the context in which the learning happens. And this has to do with the demographics of the children, gender, socioeconomic status, but also with things that happen at home, like how often they talk about political issues with their parents, whether they participate in other extra school activities in relation with your other question, whether they are part of youth groups that work, and there are different options, like things related with the environment, things related with the human rights, with civic related activities. So we compile all this information. We also have a questionnaire for teachers, which is the teachers who are in the schools that were sampled. And those teachers also answer some questions about their teaching practices, the topics that they touch upon in the school, whether they have a subject of civic or citizenship, or whether in many schools or countries this is a cross-sectional a signature, like it happens in the history classes, it happens in different classes. Not necessarily they don't have a dedicated one. They have some issues about the training for teachers, what kind of training they have been training these topics or not. And then there's another questionnaire for school principals or head teachers. And it's, in this case, it's information about the school. Everything from the infrastructure of the school to the practices, to the number of students, to the number of teachers, to the many different things. No? And then we have another questionnaire that is answered for one policymaker in each country, which is about the national policies in relation to civic and citizenship education. So when we talk about the context, we talk about all this information. Of course, this is a survey, and as a survey, it has some limitations. No? So we can collect a wealth of information, but there are, of course, many things that we cannot collect, and many things that you cannot a survey is not the best instrument to answer some questions, no? And we are aware of these limitations, but we believe that the information that is available is very rich and very useful, of course, acknowledging the limitations. In terms of, yes, this is the survey, the study has a sample that is based on schools. So the way we do it is have a list of all the schools that have 8th grade, and then select randomly a number of schools to make a sample representative of the country. Once we have the schools, we select at random 1 or 2 classrooms, depending on the size of the school, and then all the students within those classrooms. So the sampling is based on the formal education. We do capture the study is not focused on informal education, and unfortunately there are no plans to do so. However, as I was saying before, we do capture some information of education that happens outside the school through the questionnaires that we have. No, we also ask to the school, in the school questionnaire, for example, whether the school has some partnership with NGOs or other organizations going on, and what are those about. No? So we do collect some information, but it's not the focus of the study.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any further questions or comments or thoughts?
Can I ask you if you have Ukraine in your project, like one of the participant countries?
We have Ukraine. Zhijun.
I'm interested because I'm from Ukraine, and it was my research project actually back in Ukraine several years ago. Now I'm quite in a different project now because I'm displaced.
I think in the ICCS 2022, correct me, Zhijun, if I'm wrong, Ukraine didn't participate, but Andres may be able to tell us whether Ukraine plans to participate in the next wave.
Or any post-Soviet countries, I mean, any countries from former Soviet Union, because it's interesting how this education is implemented in the art.
Yes.
Yes. Unfortunately, Ukraine is not going to be part of 2027. We had some, well, I have to say that this study is hosted by the IEA. The IEA is the International Association for the Evaluation of Educational Achievement, and they organize ICCS. In Bath, we coordinate the study. But the way it works, the participation is that all country members of the IEA are invited to participate, and then it's voluntary. Whoever wants to participate does it, but not everyone does. In the case of Ukraine, it was probably not the best timing for the situation going on in the country, that the team couldn't be put together to organize the study in Ukraine. They had some funding from the EU, but even with the funding, they didn't manage to do it. Georgia, on the other hand, is participating in 2027, and we have several other countries from we have Poland, we have Serbia, we have Czech Republic, we have Slovenia, we have Romania. So we have for this round, we have 24 European countries. We have a couple of Latin American, one from Asia, but it's mainly European countries participating this time.
Thank you so much. We have another very insightful question here. Iranma, do you want to come in and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much for your fascinating talk. And informed by your slides on the barriers limits the GCE's transformative potential, I wonder, in the modern anthropocentric university model, if and how the post-human variables, maybe like the nature-based impact of teaching and the technological, like AI, interactive entanglement with the students would facilitate the discursive material transformation towards the beauty and aesthetics-oriented connotations of the GCE. I wonder maybe the planetary space as a common ground would shift the GCE ethically, ontologically, and epistemically. Thank you very much.
Andres?
Who wants to tackle this question?
It's a very complex question. Let me, I saw that it's in the chat, so let me read it again.
It's in the chat as well, yes.
Well, if I may say something before, while Andres reads the question, as I was presenting, some countries have a very strong interest in climate and environmental education, and they include that as part of the curriculum. And I believe that ICCS measures that. So everything that has to do with conceptions of global citizenship behavior. And obviously, part of that global citizenship behavior is behaviors toward the environment, planetary concerns. That is very much emphasized as well. So, and then what is going to happen with the survey, when survey measures, it will measure, very highly if these students have been, had access to curriculum that also emphasize planetary health, environmental health, and all these kinds of concerns. I think Italy may be part of that, and there is another country where that was very strong. But it depends on the curriculum and how it is developed and what emphasis people want to place in the curriculum. Sometimes it's just like in Mexico when I was growing up, I had the Constitution in a little book, and the book was called "I Am Mexican," Yo Soy Mexicano, and that's what we studied. We studied the laws. All these other conceptions were not as important as really learning all the laws in the Constitution. Andres, you wanna?
Yes, thank you very much. It's a very interesting question. And if I understand correctly, is how do we match, or what is the role of these post-human variables in ICCS? As I said, as Teresa already said, there is a big component. We consider global citizenship to be an umbrella concept that brings together, if I may oversimplify, bring together all what we need to live together in this world. That could be a way of approaching this global citizenship. No, what are the rules that we need? What are the attitudes that we need? What are the behaviors that we need to be able to live together, to live peacefully in this world? And of course, these post-human values come into play to a big extent, particularly or most prominently in what has to do with sustainability. Sustainability, we have a big component of environmental sustainability, but not only. We also have economic sustainability, social sustainability, political sustainability. So it's a broader concept that we bring into play. And we have questions both in the knowledge test and in the questionnaires that have to do with variables that are related with sustainability in general terms. Now, as I was saying before, I think for many of those variables, a quantitative approach, which is very aggregated at the country level with these big samples, might not be the best instrument, the best approach that you can use to study post-humanistic variables or values. but some information can be collected. That you can, the beauty of this is that the information that is collected is the same information that is collected across all countries, and you can compare it. It might not be very depth, very in detail, very deep, but it's information which you can use to generate patterns. In terms of the ontological and epistemological approach of the study, there are some debates. I would say that we are mounting the study on a critical realist perspective, in which we use we produce data first, and then we try to identify patterns and phenomena, and then explain these phenomena based on the best available theories at a given time, which is what you very much do when you do secondary analysis. Let's remember that we produce this data, we put it out there, freely available, publicly available for everyone, and then people use this data, do secondary analysis of this data to answer specific questions that you may have. And in doing so, in most cases, you would be doing it from a critical realist perspective or a pragmatist perspective sometimes. No, some people, of course, could do a positivistic or post-positivistic approach to the analysis of data is also possible as well. No, but I think that this kind of information, this kind of data, allows researchers to take different approaches to analyze or to study different phenomena.
Thank you so much. Any further questions or comments? We still have around 8 minutes, so everyone is welcome to raise their hand if you want to just speak and have not written in the comments yet. I will take the opportunity to ask a very quick clarification question. So do these countries differentiate between citizenship education and global citizenship education? Do they have different curricula, or how does that work?
In terms of the curricula, if I may, Teresa,
Yes.
we have
Yes,
a citizenship education, and then we have global citizenship education. This study, ICCS, started with a different name as CIBED in the 70s. So it's one of the oldest international studies. So when it started, the global citizenship education was not anywhere to be seen. So, or it was not very prominent. No? It has been gaining prominence with the years, and the study has been adapting to the needs that we have. No, as I was saying before, all these questions about radicalization, polarization, democracy backsliding, authoritarianism, they have been gaining prominence with the years, and it has been changing. So in the same way, the global citizenship has been given more stress in the last rounds than it had at the beginning. Now, in terms of the curriculum, as I was saying before, all the countries that participate in the study help, contribute, collaborate in developing the instruments. So the idea is that, particularly in the knowledge test, to have a test which knowledge that is being tested is supposed to be taught in most or in all of the countries that participate, because it wouldn't be fair to ask children to know if they know something that they haven't been taught. So that's why it's very important that the countries participate. It cannot be 100% match all the times, but let's say we have 28 countries and this particular concept was taught in 27, then it goes, no? We tried, this is very roughly, but we try not to have more than 10% of concepts that are being tested and were not taught, that the students didn't have the opportunity to learn them in the country, no? And in that sense, is fundamental, the participation of countries in the development of the instruments. When it comes to the questionnaires, we are a bit more relaxed with these assumptions, because they have to do more with the attitudes, behaviors, and participation, no, engagement in things. And we assume we cannot control whether this was taught or not. And of course, you have other variables to control for, no? But in terms of opportunities to participate in different associations or NGOs, children living in cities may have more opportunities than children living in rural areas, no? But we have yet then we have the variable of whether they live in a city or in a rural area, or how big is the community where they live. So you can control for that when you are doing the statistical analysis.
And it is, I mean, as I was saying earlier, there is a tension between how much global citizenship education you include in your curriculum versus how much civic education you include in your curriculum that is more pertinent and reflects the priorities of particular context, right? So the EU is an interesting case because of the intention to have a kind of the European state, the EU area, right? And to try to develop more coherence. So when you try to develop more coherence or more alignment across certain concepts, you may have, what is important as a nation state for your future citizens to know, and what is important for them to know about global citizens. And what does that mean? So it's a really
Regional citizen maybe as well, regional citizen, because EU citizenship probably is a very big area of that curriculum.
Yes,
being used.
Yeah. So but the curriculum has always been contentious, right? The curriculum is a contested area, so it's not different for the civic curriculum, global citizenship education, and so on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to our three speakers, Zhijun, Chen, Sandoval-Hernandez, and Teresa Tatto, for being with us today and speaking about the results of their study. And thank you to everyone who participated and attended the talk. It was lovely speaking with everyone. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.